Hello, I'm Peter Towers, Managing Director of ESS BIZTOOLS. Welcome to this briefing for our subscribers today. I'm pleased to see that some of you have found time in this very busy period running through to Christmas to join us. Hello, I'm Peter Towers, Managing Director of ESS BIZTOOLS. Thank you for joining us today for this update on business advisory services techniques and perhaps a better understanding of how the products that have been developed by ESS BIZTOOLS operate. So welcome. I know you're in a busy time of the year. We do appreciate it that you're joining us. And for those of you who are watching this recording later on at a time more convenient, welcome to you also. If you have any questions or comments and you're watching us live today, please type them into your computer and I will try to answer them before the conversation is over. And if you're watching at another time or you think about a question later, even if you're watching it live now, please send me an email, peter@essbiztools.com.au. I do have some PowerPoints. I really don't want to drive this as a PowerPoint type conversation, but I will bring these up so you can have a look at them and we can then move on from there. So I'm just moving our screen around. So I now want to bring you up to date with the matters we're going to discuss today. Session 2, obviously Merry Christmas. I should have said that at the very beginning. Merry Christmas, and I trust that 2021 will be a different year for you and your clients because there's been enough problems during 2020, hasn't there? We're going to look today at a brief overview of using the charge out rate calculator for tradies, which I think is very important. In fact, one of our affiliates, Amanda Gascoigne from the Port Stephens area in New South Wales, when Amanda was a former practitioner at Maitland in the Hunter Valley, has indicated to me in a conversation we had like this only a few weeks ago that around 60% of clients of the accountants that she's consulting to would be tradies. So tradies represent a very large block of clients. They obviously have come under all sorts of categories, from carpenters, painters, plumbers, etc., etc. So we're going to look at the charge out rates for tradies. I want to start by giving an introduction to utilizing Chief Financial Officer services. I was very impressed at the accountant's business review that was presented on the 16th and 17th of November at the number of presenters they had over those 2 days on both Chief Financial Officer services and also business advisory services. It's obviously going to be an area that a lot of clients, a lot of SMEs are participating in 2021. As a subscriber to ESS BIZTOOLS, which we believe is the best product available in Australia to assist you to offer these key services to your clients, I'd hate for you to miss out on the emerging acceptance of business advisory services and virtual Chief Financial Officer services as legitimate products for accountants in public practice to be delivering. Sure, you need some upskilling and perhaps some training and mentoring, but you are the obvious group of people to present it. The next item we're going to have a brief look at is clients need funding. It's a question. I think there's going to be a lot of problems with funding in 2021. The Australian government's small business ombudsman, Kate Carnell, has actually written to the banks and asked them to go easy on SMEs until at least Christmas 2022. So that's how serious she views the upcoming problem. Well, what can we do about it? Some of your clients are going to need funding, but they might not have spare assets to offer as security. Their mother-in-law mightn't be prepared to give them another title deed. If they have a good business, a leadership team with a burning desire in their stomach to do something proactive and develop and grow a business, to expand it, to scale it up, they could be a very suitable candidate to look to be raising capital from the public as a crowdsource funding equity raising company. So we're going to have a look at that. And we got members alert, which I'll briefly mention later on. So we've got a fairly packed agenda. If I'm going to get through all that in a little over 23 minutes from now, so I'll get started. And so what I need to do now is just so hopefully you're still able to see my screen at this stage. It probably doesn't look very good, but I'm just going on to our area now, and we're going into the members area on ESS BIZTOOLS. When the computer decides to wake up. And when you go to the members homepage, which obviously as subscribers you can go to, and I want to go to the industry specific advisory. This is a new product package which we have created for this new promotion this year. And there's a brief summary there of what's included. And you'll notice that we have setting charge out rates for tradies. There are some other things there, fee setting for professionals and retail pricing and product mixes. And we're going to talk about those in a future edition of this particular seminar series. So let's download the content and we go in there and we see that what we're looking for is charge out rates for tradies. Now, first of all, you might be interested in that there is a paper that is a backup to the material, and I'll just move that back so you can view it, because it was on my other screen then. So hopefully you're able to see that, and I'll now try to get it that we've only got one screen on the should only have one page on the screen now. I got the words a bit jumbled up. I'm saying here, you know, let's look at carpenters, electricians, plumbers, roof fixers, drainers, painters, boilermakers, etc., etc. There's probably well over 150 different tradie classifications. How long since you sat down and had a business advisory type conversation with them? Not their tax return, but their other aspects. So this is the paper. Why not read it, have a look at it? If you're happy with it, badge it and start sending it out to your tradie clients and suggesting they come and see you between now and Christmas Eve or in January to review their charge out rates for 2021. Okay, so that's there. You can look at that, and I hope that that will assist you. But what we're wanting to do today is I just want to make sure you understand where the calculator is to assist you with your clients. Now, in a short presentation like this, I haven't got the time to take you through every step. There is a video available in that system I just went through that you can go back to and have a look at. Always click enable editing. We are using a Excel spreadsheet program here. So you've got the introduction where you can badge this, who's preparing it, the date, and who's the client. There are some instructions. There's some further updates of the instructions. We're continually updating things in ESS BIZTOOLS, but they will be on the site hopefully next week, if not early in January. They're just some updates that we've noticed. The first section we go to is the calculation of labour on cost. We have three main categories. A is permanent full-time employees, B is part-time employees, and C is casual employees. And within each of those classifications, there are 6 of these categories. So we've got A1, A2, A3, and then we move down a bit and we've got A4, A5, A6. All they're there for is to allow you to enter the types of classifications that they've got identical conditions when it comes to the on-cost area. So if you have a client who has got a special deal with some of their employees to get, say, 5 weeks annual leave, whereas others are only getting 4 weeks, and they're all permanent full-time employees, you would use category A1 for the ones that are on 5 weeks, and the category A2 would be the ones you'd look at for 4 weeks. Then you might have another variation that might be based on a shift worker allowance. So if you've got people who are getting shift worker allowances, you might go over and put them into A3. The holiday pay loading. Some people pay it, some people don't. If you're paying it at 17.5%, that's all right. If your client's paying it at a different rate, you would use another one of these classifications to assist in working it all out. You can put in your personal and carers leave. Superannuation, same thing applies. If for some reason your client's generous and paying 12% already as superannuation contribution for some of their staff, you would use a separate category to do that. And there's training time built into this. So if your client's saying that they're going to allocate 3 days a year for that classification and 5 days for another to undertake specific training, you put that in so that we're bringing all these overhead factors into account to determine a charge out rate. And then we could move down and move into your permanent part-time employees. Virtually the same classifications could apply to them as apply to category A on the permanent part-times. And then we move down into the casual classification. They're slightly different, of course, and you can complete those. What the system will then do is automatically transfer information into the labour budget. So it will transfer across from A1, A2, A3, etc., the classifications that you've entered. And what you have to do is insert on the yellow columns the number of individuals on that particular classification, what their individual gross salary is, and the system will then do the calculations. And you then have to insert what your client estimates will be the productivity percentage for those employees. And someone said to me recently, well, how do you find that? What number of hours does your client expect to be able to charge that employee to a customer who will pay them for that service? It's no use putting in 100%, I don't think, because very few businesses will be able to charge 100% of the time of a tradie to a client who will pay them for it. So they need to be mindful of what the percentages are. Now, the system will transfer the part-time employees across separately, and then it will do the casual employees and will then total those figures off. The system will then calculate the targeted business productivity, just so you know it and you can look at it and perhaps do some benchmarking comparisons to benchmarking.com.au for this client's trade classification to see how they're going compared to their peers. The return on investment you can then complete, and this is looking at the investment in the business, what their targeted rate of return is and what their profit should be. We can then go to the budgeted overhead expenses. You need to insert these and add them up, of course, and that then comes into the calculations. We then go to budgeted materials. You need to be able to prepare an estimate of how much money your client is going to outlay during the year to bring in external products, and then put their markup. Some people claim they have no markup, others have 7%, 10%, 12%, 20%. Just put it in so we get a budgeted figure. There's a write-up, write-off allowance there if they need to use it, and the system will then do some calculations based on the labour, based on the targeted profit, based on the overhead expenses, based on the markup that we're taking into account would be reflected in the charge out rate for the team. If your client doesn't want to do that, if they want to keep that markup for themselves, just ignore that calculation. Don't put it into there. Any allowances for write down or write ups, and what you're then going to find is an amount of money that has to be recovered during the year if the client is going to make their targeted profit. We can then go into a base time cost. This is a calculation which this computer will then do, and the business overhead factor will then be determined, which is then automatically reflected in the charge out rate calculations. So the system just transfers this across for you, and this is going to give you a budgeted charge out rate for each classification. And then the proof of that is a nice little report that gets produced here that says if you charge all this out, this is the income you are going to earn, and that will be within a couple of dollars of what the targeted income to be achieved was. And then we have the budgeted profitability checklist, which looks at the overall picture. What are you charging out in labor and materials? What are your write-offs? What's your total sales? What are your materials costs, labor costs, the on costs, the overhead costs? And how close are you to making the net profit? And then the challenge is to monitor that with your clients. Have a monthly business review meeting with them to see how they're going. So that's how the charge out rate calculator works. I hope you can use that with your clients. It's a great discussion starter that you can have a good conversation. If you want any further information on utilizing that product, please don't hesitate to contact me. And I'll just check to see whether we've got any questions on that. I don't see that I've got any. Okay, but if you do have any questions during today, please contact me. The next item I want to move to now is to just show you where it is more than anything, I suppose, is the Chief Financial Officer Services package. So I hope that was clear to you. And we're now going to move into Chief Financial Officer Services. So just bear with me a moment, please, and I will so you should be now seeing my other screen on Chief Financial Officer Services. There's always a summary of what's included, but I've now skipped through to the list of what's in the system. The best place for you to start, though, will be in the procedure control form, but you can read what's included in the Chief Financial Officer services. It's a mixture of papers and forms, all there to assist you to have a conversation with a client. Now, I don't expect you to use all of this with one client. It'll be a very unique client, I think. But what I hope is that if you undertake CFO services for half a dozen, 10 clients, that you will have the resources contained in this package that enables you to have the conversations you need to have with them. If you don't, and you find that the clients are wanting you to look at something that we haven't put into the system, please let me know, and we will implement it and put it in there, because that's what this is all about, helping you to be able to offer these services to your clients. As you can see, as we're flicking through there on the screen, there's a lot of information in here. And if you're subscribing to that package, you can obviously go into it. If you're not subscribing to a package that includes Chief Financial Officer services and you're interested in having access to CFO, please contact us and we will let you know what your investment will be to be able to utilize the CFO services. But we talk about a lot of things in this because it's a huge area and it's an area that I think is growing. Finally got to the end of that list. So let's just go back to the beginning to the procedure control form. If you're familiar already with how the ESS BIZTOOLS systems works, you will know that we have a procedure control form for each of these product packages. We hope it helps guide you through this process. If you have any problems, let us know. Above these double lines, as you know, that's where you can badge the material. Now, you mightn't be sending this to anyone, but it's not a bad idea to badge it in any case and identify who you're doing this for, which client. There's a list of what's the key headings are in the material. There's a lot of them because this is a huge area. I originally did some research over a period of about 6 months on the advertisements that were being published in the Australian Financial Review and the Australian for people looking for chief financial officers, chief accountants. You don't see as many of those ads anymore, of course, but because they're all on social media and other web type sites. But that gave me an overview, plus my own experience having been a CFO in a listed public company some years ago. Some of the work that's been done there that people have to do, I think most of that still applies to our small business and most definitely our medium-sized enterprise clients. Who supplies it? Don't know at times. But I think if you're supplying a virtual CFO service, you need to be aware of these things and talking to them about it. So you can flick through here. This is just an awareness session today, so we're not going to go through all this. And you can see and you can link to any of these products. If you are a gold subscriber of ESS BIZTOOLS, you've got no problem of going to all of these. If you're a silver subscriber, you can go to every connection other than going to the ESS BizGrants website. Other subscribers will have different accesses. If you need access to something, contact us and we'll see what arrangement we can come to. But it gives you a suggested order that you would be going through these things. Use this as a checklist to decide what are the services that you need to provide to that client. So that's all there. It's under Chief Financial Officer Services. Can I leave that for you to go through and have a look at? The next area I wanted to talk to you today, to just give you an awareness of where it is crowdsource funding equity raising. I think this is going to be a very significant activity in this next 12 months. The problems with funding of SMEs I've already referred to. I interviewed a couple of weeks ago the joint managing director of Virtual, one of the Australian government's crowdsource funding intermediaries, and he indicated to me that 2020 had been a better year for them than 2019, even though they were based in Melbourne and they had 3 or 4 weeks of no activity in March as they sorted out what was going on. The interesting comment that Matt Vitale made to me was that they still were able to raise the capital. So investors haven't disappeared. I can imagine why a lot of them are keen to get some sort of investment that they will be hoping will make money for them when you look at the pittance they're receiving in interest these days, or we're all receiving, not just them, of course, but anyone. So I'm now going to flick back and just show you where I've gone on the system at present. So this is the crowdsource funding area that you can come into, and I should have downloaded the content, but I skipped past that. And I'm just going to go back into here. The same thing applies. You can go in and look at the procedure control form. And then you'll have the procedure control form for crowdsource funding equity raising. This package takes you through the full summary of what goes on in crowdsource funding, because you need to become an expert so that you can talk to your clients about it and they can understand what's happening, and more importantly, understand what their role and responsibilities are, and so that they also clearly understand the duties, responsibilities, and powers, very important word, powers of the crowdsource funding intermediaries. So there's some information there, and then we get into the journey. And the initial part of the journey is the client mentoring. I think you should take about 4 hours, have a workshop with your clients, send them the material, and go through and discuss the issues with them. Try to make sure that they've read the material you've sent them before you assemble. So give it to them about a week before, so that at the end of that 4-hour workshop, they should know everything about crowdsource funding equity raising. And they need to then be able to make a decision. Do they wish to proceed and move on from there? So that's the key area that you need to be looking at. Thank you. So the material there is as stated, and you can move on from there. Okay, so another area that I just want to refer you to is the members alert for December. We will be finishing that tomorrow and sending that to you. That will have a link to the recording of this briefing, so as to bring you up to speed. We will be producing a Business Plus newsletter in January. We normally don't produce one in January unless there's been a major crisis. Well, hopefully it's not a crisis in January 2021, but hopefully there's a great opportunity for you and your clients to become very proactive. So we will be producing a Business Plus newsletter for you to be able to send to your clients, which hopefully will be helping you to set the scene for 2021. And we'll be sending the links to that newsletter in the week commencing 18th of January. And then from there on, we will get back into our normal process of uploading the Business Plus newsletter on the second Friday of a month. But it'll be a little bit different in January. I know many of you are going to have a holiday. I'm going to try to have a couple of weeks off. But we want to give you a newsletter to help you launch into 2021 to be able to really offer a wider range of services for your clients, because ever since the Commonwealth Bank's report come out in early June this year, based on their surveys done in May, I've noticed that there's a lot more interest in business advisory services and chief financial officer services. We're also getting it from inquiries from businesses. I'm getting all sorts of inquiries for business plans, budgets and cash flow forecasts, and crowdsource funding, and one on early stage innovation company from businesses within my consulting company. So there's a lot of interest out there. I want to make sure that you, as our subscribers, can capitalize on that greater interest coming from the SME market to be able to offer them great services. So thank you very much for being with us today. I just want to bring one more slide back up. Thank you very much for your contribution to us as being our clients during 2020. We look forward to a continuation of that business relationship with you in 2021. We hope you like this concept of this briefing, which we will be continuing throughout 2021. So Merry Christmas to you, your families, your employees, your colleagues in your accountancy firms, and every success to you and your colleagues and your firms in 2021. Goodbye. Have a great day. And I hope you do have a great Christmas and a very happy New Year celebration. Goodbye.